I would now like to introduce Dr. Regina Shillinglaw, who's been the Assistant Training Director for the Clinical Psychology Residency Program for the last 10 years, and invite her to the podium for special remarks.
Good afternoon. In the past few weeks, I have reached out to several individuals who have worked with and known Lieutenant Colonel Rowe throughout his Air Force career, to give them an opportunity to send well wishes at his retirement, even though they could not attend. It was easy collecting fond memories and kind words from people who have known Lieutenant Colonel Rowe. The hard part was editing the many pages of emails that I received into a bundle that could be delivered in a span of time appropriate for a retirement ceremony. Everyone I reached out to literally went on and on about Lieutenant Colonel Rowe and his profound impact on Air Force psychology. I will now read excerpts from the emails I received, and the author will be given credit following each excerpt. Number 1. 4 years ago, a man destined to be a great leader in Air Force psychology brought forth to the Air Force an unbridled compassion for others and determination to make the world a better place, believing that all are created equal. I met Dr. Rowe in officers training. We then went on to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base to begin our professional Air Force journey, and Kirk's lovely and most dear wife, Christina, was also in our class. We remained fast friends, and my husband and I visited Kirk and Christina at their first assignment at Shepherd Air Force Base. I bet I'm not alone when I say that anyone would be hard-pressed to find more gracious and welcoming hosts than Kirk and Christina. Our visits continued throughout the years whenever possible at the annual Air Force psychology meetings. I can recall multiple times watching in awe and sometimes disbelief when Kirk would get up on his soapbox about issues that were important to him, such as childhood obesity and climate change. He would proudly talk about articles he had written and presentations he had given on these topics. Always mindful of the world around him, Kirk raised my awareness about the important issues and inspired me to look beyond my immediate surroundings. Kirk, you have contributed so much to the Air Force, both at a programmatic level and in the lives of so many individuals. The Air Force is a much better place for having had you among the ranks. I wish you Godspeed and only the best in this next stage of your career. This was written by Dr. Ann Hershko Mullen, retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and Psychology Training Director at Wilford Hall. Number 2. I want to say that Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Rowe is the reason that I am even in the greatest Air Force in the world. He took a chance on a non-traditional, older student. He was instrumental in my training and transformation as a psychologist and an Air Force officer. His refusal to accept anything but your best and his ability to challenge you to push yourself further than you thought you could go were just what I needed. Lieutenant Colonel Rowe has been an icon for the Wright-Pat Psychology Residency Program, and he will be sorely missed. This was contributed by Captain Stephen Hughes, Air Force psychologist and former psychology resident. Number 3. The first time I met Lieutenant Colonel Rowe was after a terrible interview from an unmentionable person at Wilford Hall. That person clearly wasn't interested in having me as a psychology resident at Lackland, and I was crushed. But I did not give up on the idea of joining the Air Force, and I called Colonel Rowe. After a pleasant conversation that was motivating and 180 degrees different from the one I'd had with the other training director, Lieutenant Colonel Rowe took a chance on me. He invited me to the open house at Wright-Pat, and I interviewed for the residency program and was accepted. If it hadn't been for Lieutenant Colonel Rowe, I would not be in the Air Force today. This was written by Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Potter, U.S. Air Force psychologist and former psychology resident. Number 4. Ultimately, any words will fall short of the true impact Lieutenant Colonel Rowe had on me, my family, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, psychologists within the Air Force, and the Air Force at large. Throughout my psychology residency year at Wright-Pat, Lieutenant Colonel Rowe practiced the guidance he offered others. Frequently, he was the first person at the office and the last to leave. He was passionate about teaching and learning, particularly as it pertained to therapy-related issues and neuropsychology. During physical training, Lieutenant Colonel Rowe showed everyone his amazing athletic abilities. Sign this guy up for the Frisbee and basketball all-star teams. And it quickly became evident that Lieutenant Colonel Rowe's wife and children held the key to his heart. It was also evident that he considered residents and colleagues his family. Lieutenant Colonel Rowe, your absence will be felt by more people than you can imagine. Thank you for your devotion to serving our Air Force and playing such a pivotal role in the training of Air Force psychologists. This was contributed by Captain Eric Ringdahl, U.S. Air Force psychologist and former psychology resident. Number 5. Lieutenant Colonel Rowe was an inspirational mentor during my training year. His passion for both the Air Force and neuropsychology greatly increased my love for both. His impact on the Wright-Patterson internship program is immeasurable, as he served as one of the large draws for the program for several years. I'm wishing him nothing but the best in his retirement. Sent by Captain Matthew Jackson, U.S. Air Force psychologist and former psychology resident. Number 6. Dear Kirk, I cannot believe it's been 23 years since we completed our internship. I have such fond memories of our time at Wright-Patterson. What a group we had. The Kirk and Christina Rowe duo, in particular, had the knack of cultivating a cohesive group early on. I admired the way you two managed to balance work, family, friends, and fun, a balance I have yet to fully achieve. I saw that you had the rare mix of intelligence, interpersonal skill, compassion, and confidence to make both a consummate clinician and an effective and wise leader. Kirk, you have had a huge impact on my career path and the Air Force in general. And I have no doubt that you have encouraged, mentored, and inspired many others along the way. That's just how you roll. Congratulations, my friend, and thank you for your service. This was contributed by Dr. Stephen Brown, neuropsychologist and former U.S. Air Force psychologist. Number 7. My intern class was 2001-2002. A very special memory is the end of the year gathering at Lieutenant Colonel Rowe's house, where we were able to make our very special pottery mugs. Many of us display those in our offices still today. Lieutenant Colonel Rowe is one of those people who, through his interactions with you, makes you a better person. He has helped countless patients and taught many interns. As a leader, he didn't get caught up in politics, and he always tried to do what was right and made sense. And, importantly, his sense of humor was always appreciated. Contributed by Dr. Carrie Gibson Madsen, former U.S. Air Force psychologist and psychology resident. And finally, number 8. Approximately 14 years ago, Lieutenant Colonel Rowe convinced me to do something I never thought I would voluntarily do: live in an area in which there is even a remote chance of snow. I ultimately decided to do this because in our brief interactions during the residency application process, it was clear to me that you epitomized the kind of training director and officer I wanted to work for. Now, 14 years later, I see that as one of the best decisions I've made in my career. I cannot thank you enough for the selfless leadership you demonstrated when I was a resident and the advice and guidance you have provided me throughout the years since. It is difficult for me to imagine the Air Force without the officer who has been such a phenomenal mentor to me. Thank you for the example you set, the sacrifices you and your family have made, and for your unwavering commitment to ensuring that the Air Force maintains the highest standards of training and clinical practice. Best wishes in your future endeavors. This was contributed by Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Callender, U.S. Air Force psychologist and commander, 412th Medical Operations Squadron. These are just a few of the words that I received, and I would like to say a few words in closing. I just want to say that the individuals who contributed comments and well wishes to this segment of the ceremony speak of themes that we see in Lieutenant Colonel Rowe every day in the psychology training program and in the mental health clinic. He really does embody the Air Force core values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And it comes naturally to him. From what I know of Lieutenant Colonel Rowe, He was living those core values when he entered the Air Force. He definitely did so throughout his career, and he will undoubtedly continue to do so in the next chapter in his life. We will miss you, Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Rowe.